what's up you guys, this is Rob from The Gay Guy Plays, and today the Crossfire is back, and we're on a quest to make Limbo the Master of the Rift. Okay, so it's been a little over a month since the release of the video where I asked all of you what's so wrong with Limbo and Oberon. After a lot of stewing and our community's mic drop moment, the inspiration is throbbing and pulsating like the wild, untamed erections that we had in high school, where somebody was bound to catch you and you needed desperately to find a way to cover up. However, today we are saying hallelujah inspiration erection, let's ride you into the sunset. Now, can I thank y'all real quick for the fact that out of 800 plus comments, I only had to delete about 5 or 6, and one of them that I deleted was because that fucker blatantly said, I stopped this video 50 seconds in, and here's what I think. No boo, don't interrupt me while I am giving you the facts and the topical positioning of the episode. It's a fucking 6-minute video and I haven't even gotten through the intro and you want to start talking? How about you don't? You couldn't even wait till the 5-minute mark? Shut it down, baby. Because if you don't care about what I have to say, then I don't care about what you have to say, okay? Regardless, there were many of you wonderful, beautiful people who did take the time to listen, and a lot of your responses totally hit the nail on the head. However, the true mic drop moment for me was actually in clan chat when Phantom Russ, and some numbers, this guy right here, had made a very simple statement. He doesn't feel like he's the master of the rift. And to be honest with you, that totally resonated. No, he doesn't feel like the master of the rift. He feels more like middle management, delegating what people go in and out and where the rifts open up. But at no point does he truly feel like he has any power over it. Frost can manipulate ice to create barriers, freeze enemies solid, and create mass slowing zones. Ember can literally set the world on fire and accelerate the rate at which it burns. Not to mention Siren, who can spread disease across an entire tile set with the snap of her fingers. And in comparison to all of those cool elements, the rift mechanic just doesn't seem all that interesting. True, you can divide the battlefield and get a bit of energy from it, but as Jonas Cabrera pointed out, banished enemies don't really have anything different to them. They walk and kill you just as fast as regular non-banished enemies. What's the point? And they're totally right. The rift isn't even a cool thing to be a master of. Now, while I do agree with players like Matthew De Jesus, who states that Limbo is fine, there's no problem save that a lot of players are, no offense, a bit too dense to know how to play him properly. Admittedly, he's a rather rare frame with some complex mechanics, but player ignorance doesn't make those mechanics ineffective. However, I do have to admit that I definitely think that one thing that is lacking is the rift's ability to entice players to want to play in it. When Banshee lets off a sonar, players want to aim for the sweet spots. When Siren drops her spores, players want to spread it. However, when a Limbo drops Cataclysm, players aren't necessarily excited to attack the enemies inside of it, which is definitely something I'll be addressing. So clearly, it's time to get to work, or in this case, rework. Now, let's start with passives. As we know, you gain 2 energy per second whilst in the rift in order to incentivize rift play. I'd also suggest adding 2 health per second, which should draw in all of the players with high armor frames. As for Limbo and his current passive, the 10% bonus to movement speed and 50% bonuses to reload speed and holster rate whilst in the rift are nice, but they're just not nice enough. So what I'd personally suggest is bumping up that movement speed to 20% and adding in an increase to animation speed to go alongside it. And that should help compensate for some of the slower animations. Now, stop your typing because we will be adding more exciting features to the rift through Limbo's abilities, so hold your horses and just let me get through this. Now, as for Banish and Rift Walk, a lot of people have really wanted these skills to be combined, and we currently have a targeting system in-game that would work fantastically for it. I'm sure all of the Arcwing aficionados out there are very familiar with Amisha's Warding Grace targeting mechanic. If you target an ally, you give them the buff. If you have no one targeted, then it acts as a self-buff. The only thing that we would have to do is make enemies valid targets and include a hold feature, where if you held the button down, it would toggle Banish off of you. So, 4 different functions, all in one key. And the main reason I wanted to suggest this is because of the fact that it is imperative for Limbo to be able to get into Rift Walk very quickly, and being forced to hold down the button to get him into it can definitely lead into some very painful situations. Moving along, his next ability, Rift Surge, will undergo a major transformation. Now, mechanically, I will be 100% honest with you, I don't know if it's actually possible to make any of these happen, but let's cross our fingers. Rectal Anarchy, which is an amazing screen name by the way, brought something to light. Limbo doesn't encourage team play. This is why Trinity, Nova, and Frost work so well, while Laban Hester and Noah Cohen spit roast the point quite well. Allies allies don't like to be told what enemies they can kill, they want free fire. Kind of like Ash's Blade Storm locking up enemies, people hate it. Now clearly the Rift is the Rift is the Rift, and the whole mechanic is about dividing the battlefield. But what if we can make them want to dive into our Rift using similar effects to Nova, Frost, and other team-centric frames? Adopting Avara's Quiver mechanic, the new Rift Surge will give him access to 4 different surges. Combustion Surge would periodically proc the fire status and also make them 2 times more susceptible to damage at its base. So we're still holding on to that original multiplier for all of the people who love it. Momentum Surge slows all enemies that enter the Rift whilst increasing the shield regeneration rate, reducing shield recharge delay and status duration on allies. Temporal Surge increases the loot drop rate of all enemies within the Rift and causes them to emit a healing pulse upon death. Whirlpool Surge periodically shreds armor and shielding similarly to Mag's Polarize, whilst granting allies bonuses to status and critical chance. Now clearly all of these options are just to illustrate some of the potential effects that could be brought in to manipulate the Rift and are up for debate. This change just gives Limbo a way to adapt to different situations and I hope will encourage players to want to play in the Rift. Now his next ability is totally new, excluding the fact that I kind of stole it off of another frame. Similar to Trinity's Link or Necros' Shield of Shadows, Dominance grants Limbo increased defenses for every enemy that is currently in the Rift. Now again, this can be done multiple ways, whether it's damage reduction per enemy, a damage reflect back to enemies, or a flat armor increase per enemy. I just think it would be an awesome way to further create this Master of the Rift feeling, and will hopefully be able to aid players like Crow Red who feels like putting enemies into the Rift is a big risk in higher levels. Banish doesn't always knock them down, and you might be under attack while casting Cataclysm. This way, the more enemies that go in, the more potent your defenses become, and you become less hesitant to use your abilities. Finally, we move on to Cataclysm. So I'm gonna be honest with you, with all of the other abilities we tweak, I think that Cataclysm has passively received its own rework. However, there are a couple things that I'd like to touch on. One of the things that needs a fix is the animation lock that comes along with it, as I don't believe that the Rift should go active until the animation completes. Leaving you without the ability to respond to threats doesn't incentivize its use and makes you a pretty shitty Rift Master. And the last thing that I want to touch on is picking up things whilst in Cataclysm. Now, thematically, I understand why Banish and Rift Walk don't allow you to do it, but let's be real, you are literally putting an area into the Rift, which should include everything inside it. Now here's the thing, while I do feel that way, I am not a programmer or a developer, so it may be for balance reasons or mechanically they can't do it without disabling pickups. Regardless, due to the fact that the intent hasn't been made 100% clear, it's not something I can logic my way around without making assumptions, and you guys know I don't like doing that. Now, as I said last time, I do not work for DE, nor do I have any influence over anyone in the DE offices. So basically, this is a just for fun thing. As let's be real, none of us are developers and we have no clue what coding they have to work with or work around to make things functional. Regardless, as always, I had a fun time reading through your comments, compiling and trying to solve all of our issues. Hopefully I was able to keep all of the Limbo lovers satisfied, but give everyone else a reason to dive in as well. Now, as you guys know, Oberon is next, however, do not hesitate to leave suggestions for other crossfires that are hopefully not rework related. So thank you all for watching another episode of The Crossfire. If you haven't already checked it out, be sure to watch my latest snapshot, which explored Warframe synergies with new melee mods. And if you're looking for glyphs, I'll randomly be giving them out during the advent. Now, don't forget to do all the things that I asked you to do at the end of every one of these. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye!